mummy's with the maggots now.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Well, hi there.
Hello, and welcome to Would You Die, the show where bad things will start to happen. Evil things. I'm Austin Torres.
And I'm Anneliese Petersmark.
And today, what are we talking about? What is our monthly topic?
Ooh, good question. So, our monthly topic this month is June Origins.
Ooh.
Or as I like to call it, Georgians.
George?
No.
Georgians.
Anyway.
Georgia, sweet. That's not the melody.
That's nothing.
Didn't Georgians mess up the last election? I don't.
Boo.
Orange juice?
I said Georgians. I meant Origin,
Orange.
which is like a much better title. Anyway.
Orange juice?
Can we start over?
I love that you went Origin to Georgians. Actually, I get how it happened.
Georgians. Georgians.
Origin.
We have to start over. You're not going to let me, are you?
No, we can start over. Do you really want to?
No.
Okay.
Anyway. So this is June Origins. And by that, I should probably explain what we mean. We are going to be looking at prequels this month and origin stories.
4 prequels of such dastardly tone. I couldn't think of some. I was
You really
so...
thought the end of that sentence was going to come before you got to it, didn't you?
Listen, I had a chance to say dastardly. I was going to take it.
Now who wants to start over?
Never me. I stick to what I say, and if I don't, I edit that shit out.
Fair. So, Austin, what movie are we starting with?
We are starting with The First Omen, released in 2024. Not to be confused with the First Omen movie, which is just called The Omen.
Correct. The First Omen 2024 is the prequel for The Omen 1976, which is the First Omen movie.
Perfectly not confusing.
Correct. So, The First Omen, it follows a young American woman who is about to become a nun. She's about to take her vows and become a nun. And she decides to take her vows in Rome. She gets sent to Rome to become a part of the church. As she is there working in an orphanage inside the parish in Rome, she starts to kind of uncover secrets and a conspiracy to bring about the birth of the Antichrist, which, of course, we start to see in The Omen.
Yes. And this is a film that I think is really fucking good.
I agree.
This is a banger. And it's a very new film, too. Just came out. It's barely a year old.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have something to say about this. When did you watch this film for the first time?
I watched this film for the first time on Tuesday.
Nice.
As far as The Omen, I saw The Omen when I was really little. I probably watched The Omen for the first time when I was too young, which is interesting because we've already talked about I don't watch a lot of horror movies, or I didn't when I was a child. I watched The Ring and that kind of fucked me up permanently.
Fair.
So I remember seeing glimpses of The Omen. The other fun fact that I would like to bring up is that we talked about The Omen before.
We did, back in another era, in another life.
Yes.
Of Would You Die?
In the last iteration of Would You Die, we did a Satanic Panic episode, which was my first ever episode on the podcast.
We talked about the The Omen in that one, too?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I was thinking of the religion and horror.
We also talked about it there, yes.
That one is a little more obvious.
That one's a little more obvious. But the first time that we talked about it was during the Satanic Panic, because obviously this kind of is a really big symbol that was on the rise in the 70s and then into the 80s. More of a moral panic at this point, and then it turns into a full-blown Satanic Panic in the 80s. And when we get into the topic, that is something that comes up in the movie, and kind of the reason for these events is this moral panic that is happening in the 70s.
Yeah.
So what is your personal connection? What's the first time you watched The Omen? What's the first time you watched this movie?
So The Omen is one of those films where it was always kind of around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, being Catholic helps.
Yeah.
And The Omen is a horror film that my family just loved.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually I started loving it. It was a huge movie for me. I don't remember when I first watched it, though. It's just always kind of been around.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one where it's like my grandpa would reference it, my mom would, my entire family loves that movie. But when The First Omen was coming out, I was a little skeptical because I have seen all the Omen movies.
Mm-hmm.
There really does not need to be more than one. But at the same time, there's a new Omen movie coming out. Your boy's going to go see it in theaters.
Fair.
So I wasn't expecting much, but I still wanted to see it. Because at the very least, I'm going to have an entertaining night.
Right, yeah.
And then this movie isn't just like good. This movie's a fucking banger.
Yeah, it really exceeded my expectations. So this is something interesting. I don't do a lot of like horror movie series.
Yeah.
Because I'm really bad at keeping up with them, and I feel like there's 500,000 movies that span like decades and decades a lot of the time, right? So it's really hard for me to catch up. Not that I would never do it, but like I'm thinking specifically of like topical reference, but like the Annabelle, I don't remember what the original movie was, but
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring, thank you. There's so many movies and offshoots of that series.
Right.
And now she's on the loose, so maybe there will be more. Did you know that?
I did. Annabelle on the Loose
Annabelle
is
on
a
the Loose.
great movie title, though. Annabelle, here we go again.
Annabelle, here we go again. But so it overwhelms me to think about like getting into all of those movies.
Yeah.
So when you first suggested this, I was really nervous that I would have had, I mean, obviously I knew I had to see the original, but I was really nervous that I would have to watch like the whole series to understand this movie. And you really don't.
You really don't need to see the original.
You
to
really don't,
understand
because
it.
it's a prequel. I highly recommend it because I think it makes a lot of sense. And it is fun to catch all the little like Easter eggs and such.
Oh, there's one I want to bring up, but we will do that after we've warned people about spoilers.
Yes. But yeah, I had such a good time watching this movie that it kind of makes me want to watch the other ones, but also maybe I'll just keep it at these two because these are such great movies.
So I'm going to shout out my friend Celise from Sweet and Spooky. Last year, we did a live stream celebrating the Omen franchise. And it's funny, Celise, if you're listening to this, happy early birthday. Her birthday is June 6th.
Oh, nice.
Which is
the Omen date. Yeah.
The Omen date, Damien's birthday. And so we talked about the whole series, and I have watched all of these movies now. It's not like the best series in the world.
Did you see the Omen remake?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Not good.
Stacked cast, great cast.
Fully made only because they were able to do it on 666.
But you know
that's
what?
when it released.
That's a good reason.
Yeah.
It's kind of iconic they did that.
6606 is a great day to release that movie. That is pretty iconic. Stars Julia Stiles and Liev Schreiber. That's crazy.
Look at this whole cast. It's
Yeah.
stacked. Peter Postlethwaite is in it. He plays Father Brennan.
Yeah. Michael Gambon.
David Thewlis.
That's crazy. What the fuck?
Like, it's a great cast.
Remus Lupin's in this movie.
And Sabretooth.
Well, yes.
And Julia Stiles.
And Julia Stiles. And she's in my favorite movie of all time, so it has to be good.
Well, you can watch it.
I don't think I will.
But, like, The Omen 2 is fine. It is, like, the very definition of fine.
Yeah.
Omen 3 is less, but here's what's cool about The Omen 3. Is it a good movie? No. But it stars Sam Neill as an adult Damien.
That's really fun.
And there is some batshit insane moments in The Omen 3 that I respect it. I don't, as a whole movie, I'm not sure it quite works, but there are moments where I'm like, okay, y'all went there. That was insane. Good on you.
Yeah.
And then there's The Omen 4, but that was like a made-for-TV, barely has anything to do with The Omen.
Right.
So I don't really count it.
Yeah, I think this one and the original Omen are a really perfect duology, though.
They are, even though the first Omen kind of retcons the original a bit.
A little bit, yeah. The backstory, just a bit, it does.
But I'm okay with it because it makes for a very good prequel.
It makes good choices, man.
It makes great choices, yes.
Yes.
Although it kind of makes one of my favorite lines from the original Omen, like, obsolete.
Explain.
Okay, so Band-Aids off. Spoiler, we're in spoiler territory for both the first Omen and also The Omen, which is the first Omen.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen either of those movies, y'all are going to get spoiled.
I would watch them.
One of my favorite lines from the original The Omen is, because Father Brennan's kind of a dick. He's like, his mother was a jackal. And Gregory Peck's like, you do not dare talk about my wife that way. And he's like, no.
Okay, but here's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not retconned. People keep saying that's retconned. She's half jackal.
But she's not a jackal.
But she is half jackal, which means Davian's 3/4 jackal.
But he didn't say his mother was half jackal.
I understand, but maybe he was
That's fair.
trying to be dramatic and for dramatic effect. I think we can have
I
plausible
love it.
deniability with this. But yeah, no, I agree. It is, yeah.
But regardless,
it is funny.
it makes for the first Omen being a better movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And with the first Omen being a better movie,
It's
I think
fine.
it makes The Omen,
Yeah.
which was already one of my all-time greats for horror.
Yes. Yeah. So
I have
we're-
a hot take.
Okay.
I don't think The Omen's like underrated or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it gets overshadowed a little bit by The Exorcist,
I
and
agree.
I don't think it should.
I don't think it should either. I totally agree with you. I do want to talk about, like, speaking of The Exorcist, getting into the historical context
Yes.
of, like, both of these movies. So, The Omen itself exists in this kind of time period where religious horror is on the rise because of this moral panic that's happening.
Yeah.
And the First Omen really digs into this. The First Omen starts with she lands. Why can't I think of her name? What is her name?
Margaret.
Thank you. I kept wanting to call her Barbara, and that's not correct.
Well, they talk about Barbara Streisand, I think, and
They do, but Barbara Streisand, what an icon. They do talk about her. I forgot about that scene. Margaret lands, and immediately they're like in this car, and they're like, you really can't go anywhere unsupervised because there are all these protests going on in Rome protesting the church. And as you go through and uncover, and I'm about to reveal kind of a bigger thing that we're going to touch on later. So again, spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
As you go through the movie, you find out about this plot to create the Antichrist. And whereas in the original, again, like kind of some retconning here, in the original, it was like this Satanist like subsect, you know, like this is put on by the church, and it is because they are afraid of secularism. The more that secular and non-religious people grow and change, the less power that the church has, and especially Catholic Church. That's not something the Catholic Church is used to at this point. Up to this point, for the majority of the history of the Catholic Church, they have had the supreme power, at least in the West.
Right.
You know, and they're starting to lose that. Not to other religions, which is easy because they've conquered those before, but to secularism. And they figure if they can give the people something to be scared of, something that is supernatural,
something to make them believe again.
Yes, they will turn themselves back to the church. And this fits in so well with two things. It fits in so well with this rising moral panic of the 70s. It really makes the movie feel like it belongs with The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby and The Omen itself. But also, it couches that with it's a very modern movie because it also kind of highlights like modern fears of religious institutions. Like we're starting now more than ever to kind of break down this institution of religion and see it as different. I mean, think about like just the fears surrounding the new pope and everything that came with like what's going to happen if we get a super conservative pope versus a
Right.
super liberal pope? Like, you know, what's going to happen to all these people? Because the church still does have real power.
Right. What happens if this pope meets J.D. Vance?
Exactly. Who knows? Are you
And
going to mention?
And worst of all, what happens if God is now a White Sox fan?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to do something about God being a White Sox fan. Anyway.
Well, I did see one meme where it's like, what was it? It's like, Villanova is now the first school to have multiple basketball championships and a pope elected from its student base.
Yeah.
Which
My
is so
favorite-
funny.
My favorite meme about that was because if you didn't know, if you're not a baseball person, the White Sox had the worst record in MLB history last year. So someone said, like, this guy was meant to be the Pope because he saw the worst baseball season in MLB history and still had faith. So anyway, modern institutions, lots of power, fear with the lots of power. This makes this both perfect for a 1970s audience as well as a modern audience. And I think that's why it works so well.
And I'm glad that you're bringing up how this film, even though it's made in 2024, or released in 2024, fits right at home with other 1970s supernatural horror films, and is shot like one.
Yes,
The
it is shot like
cinematography is very 70s inspired, and I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the film director, Arkasha Stevenson, who this is her feature film debut.
Yes.
And she comes at this film with the confidence of someone who's done 10 feature films.
Yeah, you would never know. I didn't know.
This is
until
a
you just said
studio film with I wouldn't say this is like a big franchise by any means,
that. No.
but it's a big name.
Right. Everybody knows the original movie.
Right. You put something in the Omen name, people are going to know that name. I don't know how many people have seen The Omen 3,
Yes.
but like I remember when the remake came out and people were jazzed for it, you know? Like the commercials were on TV. I remember seeing the poster. So, it's a big enough name. I think The First Omen is one of the best films of 2024.
I think it's phenomenal. I really had such a good time watching this movie. This was so fun. Getting into kind of our topic of the month and June origins, which we've already kind of touched on a bit. Obviously, again, like fitting right in with the 1970s scare of secularism amongst the church is a really key theme. But like you were saying also, this film pays homage to the original Omen in so many ways. It was shot in 35 millimeter. The biggest probably scene that I can think of is her name's Sister Angelica scene.
It's all for you?
It's all for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to do that scene. It's what the people come for.
Yes. And I really like the way that they use it as a bait and switch.
Yeah.
For Margaret and is it Carlita?
Carlita, yeah.
I need to start writing down names of characters because I do that every time.
Carlita Skiana.
Yes. So as we get further into the plot, Margaret discovers all of these birth files of these attempted antichrists. And Carlita is, as far as she knows, the only one living still. As she has the mark of the beast. We see it on the roof of her mouth when she screams. And so Margaret is convinced that Carlita is being kept alive to mate with her father, the Jackal, and birth the Antichrist, to birth a male child finally.
Yeah.
Turns out, not the case. So when Sister Angelica douses herself in oil and sets herself on fire and hangs herself and looks down at Carlita and Margaret and says, "It's all for you," the audience obviously believes it's about Carlita because we have already started to realize that there's something up with her. Realistically, we now know at the end of the movie she was looking at Margaret.
Right.
Which I find really haunting. I want to watch this movie again, knowing what I know.
There's a lot unlocked with multiple viewings of it, which I think once again, a lot of it is told through the camera work. What's interesting is I'm pretty sure she says that it cuts to Carlita.
Yeah, it does.
Then it cuts to Margaret. And I'm just gonna rip off this this twist in case you guys haven't realized it yet. But Margaret is also a daughter of the Jackal.
Yes.
So her and Carlita are sisters,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know it.
No.
So.
But she does feel this incredible connection to Carlita.
Right.
And as you learn more about her backstory, you find out that a lot of the things that Carlita is going through, like scary visions and things she's not sure if are real or not, happened to Margaret as well as a child.
Exactly.
So,
right.
Yeah, really fascinating.
And what I think, what kind of helps make this a really cool origin story, not just the aesthetic choices of placing it in 70s Italy, because the original is mostly in 70s, not London, but Great Britain, right? Yeah.
I believe...
Because he's the ambassador, Gregory Peck's the ambassador to Britain.
I believe you're right, yeah.
And then they go to Rome, too.
Yes.
The original Omen's an epic.
Mm-hmm.
With the First Omen, I think what makes it a really cool prequel is the big climax is the birth of Damien, right?
Yes.
And I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. A lot of the Omen centers obviously around like after the birth, because we don't see the birth. I mean, we don't see that. So a lot of it is like years after almost.
It's 6 years, I think.
When he's a young child.
When he turns 6, that's when
6 on 6. Yeah. And so so we don't see like the fact that we see so much in this movie about before he was even born and everything that led to him being there is really interesting.
Right.
This movie reframes Damien's birth circumstances. In the original movie, it just kind of seemed like prophecies foretold that the Antichrist was going to be born and that when he was born, all of these people would come to worship him. Great, wonderful, beautiful.
Yeah.
This reinforces him as a systemic evil, not a chaotic one. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that makes it even more sinister. I think it is crazy. And especially because, again, we're not talking about satanic cults here. We are talking about the church itself. The church that knows and believes in the kind of hell that the Antichrist will bring to earth. They are jumpstarting the apocalypse, the literal apocalypse with this move. And they do it in the sake of like, in the name of bringing people to the church, not to Christ. They never mention like bringing people to God. Right. It's always about bringing them to the control that the church has.
So we got to talk about Father Brennan for a bit and his relationship with Margaret. Ralph Ineson, what a dude. Yeah. What a dude. I love him. He is so... And if you guys don't know who Ralph Ineson is, yeah, you do.
You absolutely do.
You just go on his IMDb. He's played so much. If you like Robert Eggers, you know Ralph Ineson. Like off the top of my head, he's in Nosferatu and The Witch. Oh, The Witch is the obvious one. I'm pretty sure he's in The Northman. He also
does a lot of video game characters.
And I was watching Ready Player One a couple weeks ago, and he's playing like the aunt's douchey boyfriend. And I'm like, wait a second, I know him.
Yeah, he's in a lot, and he's got like so many little roles too.
He does. He's in The Last Jedi as like a little role.
Yeah, he's got that. He's in Kingsman, but he plays just like a police officer. He's in The Witch. That's a bigger role.
That's a main role, right?
He is a recurring character in The British Office.
Oh, I didn't know that. He's gonna be. Oh,
he's the Green Knight.
Right. He's going to be in the MCU.
Yep. Well, he's already in the MCU, isn't he?
Well, who are you thinking of?
I don't know. I thought he had a bit role, and then he's gonna play.
He probably did.
Maybe he didn't, but he's gonna play. Can I spoil it?
Audience, you decide. You go on IMDb.
That's fair.
And look up Ralph Ineson and see if you want who he's gonna be spoiled. Yeah. I'm just gonna say this: it's a big character.
Ha. Yeah, he was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it's like a Ravager or something. I think
Yeah.
I read. Yeah.
But yeah, he was in Peaky Blinders.
Mm-hmm.
He was in The Dark Crystal, the new one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's been in so much. He played a character in Final Fantasy 16. I can read numbers. He was in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. He's done so much.
He
You
has
know
a
him.
great voice.
Yeah, he does.
I wanted to do like an impersonation earlier, but it was turning into Caesar from Planet of the Apes, and I bailed.
He was in the Disney Plus series, The Willow.
I didn't see that.
I love Willow.
Pope's Exorcist, The Creator.
He was in Nosferatu.
Yep.
Oh, he's going to be in another movie that we've spoken on this podcast. He's going to be in Frankenstein.
The Guillermo del Toro one?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Holy shit. He's in so much. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyways, Ralph Ineson.
He's great, is our point.
I think this is my favorite role of his.
He's so wonderful. He does a really good job of playing sympathetic but also very sinister.
I don't think he's sinister in this movie.
I think
Or do you mean in general?
No, I think in this movie.
But he's not the problem. He's the only...
I didn't say he was a bad guy. I said he was sinister.
I don't think
he
he's
brings
sinister.
terrible news to Margaret.
But that's not being sinister. Because he's always like, I'm sorry, Margaret. I can't do Ralph Ineson.
Yeah, and it's terrifying when he says it.
But he's sorry about it.
No one said he was being evil. Do you know what the word sinister means?
It means evil.
No, it doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
Jeremy, choose a side.
Apparently he's going to choose your side. I know what that fucking...
I here's the thing. I do know what you mean. I do think the average person hears the word sinister and thinks evil.
Okay, well, they're wrong. It's not my fault you don't know definitions.
That's
Let's just
her
insult
speaking to you, the listener.
Let's just insult the listener. Okay.
Look it up. I'm here to better the general population. I'm not here to coddle you. Learn how to read.
We don't have that kind of listener numbers.
I understand. But maybe one day we will.
Maybe one.
When this podcast makes it big, we'll refer people back to this episode.
To this episode.
When we have thousands and thousands of weekly listeners, we'll be like, hey, really quick, when you have the time,
You need to go back and listen to episode, what is it, 13?
14.
14.
go back and listen to episode 14. There's a message
Our
in there
lucky
for
number
you.
13 episode was Sweeney Todd.
Oh.
Sorry. I think that was a great episode. I don't know if it was the movie.
I think the episode might be better than the movie.
Joanna.
Jeremy's back with his hot takes.
No, I agree with Jeremy on this one.
Okay, so.
Oh, but I bring up Ralph Ineson for a reason.
Oh, okay. Great. I'm glad.
When he's telling Margaret how there's two churches, there's this great moment where he's like, and you know what there's a church that you and I are a part of, the Church of God, the Church of Christ. Then there's the other, a more sinister church, one that's.
In this context, sinister does mean evil.
But one who worships power, one who wants to keep power. And you know what they're afraid of? And Margaret just goes, the devil.
He goes,
He goes,
he rolls his eyes, first of all.
no, secularism. But no, it's so cute when she's like, the devil. It made me think of
He's
Hunt
like,
for
you
the
don't
Wilder
fucking
People.
get it. Yeah.
And you know what's behind that door? Vegetables?
Yes.
Which has Sam Neill, who has played Damien.
True. Look at you. Making connections. It's all a circle.
Her web connects us all.
Her web connects us all is crazy. Everybody go see who The Material is. Is that what that movie's called? Yeah.
With Pedro and Chris Evans and Madame Web.
And Madame Web, fucking Human Torch, and
Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic.
It's crazy how they're all Marvel heroes
That's
now.
crazy. Damn.
Her web connects us all.
Her web does connect us all. That's crazy.
Ay, ay, ay.
Anyway.
Anyways.
So something that I want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
and I've talked about it on this podcast before when we talked about Carrie, but I want to talk about feminist body horror.
Woo!
Let's do it. So, this movie is chock full of feminist body horror.
Hell yeah,
If you
it
haven't
is.
noticed. We'll start tame and we'll go wild. One of the things that I really like is the very specific way that they arrange her hair. Margaret's hair.
After the club scene?
Twice. They do it after
okay.
the club scene,
Mm-hmm.
where her hair is very arranged to mimic the spider motif.
Mm-hmm.
And she also has like dark circles under her eyes from her makeup. Everything's like, really smeared. She looks very tired. And then if you notice during the birth scene, hair is arranged the same way. Dark circles under her eyes. She looks exactly the same. It's a mirror image.
I didn't notice that.
Yes. It's fucked up when you know what happened during that club night.
Because they do flashback.
Yeah.
And they tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a commentary track earlier today about the First Omen, which had the director Arkasha Stevenson and master of horror Mike Flanagan.
Hell yeah, brother.
Which is so cool. For a little bit, he hosted a podcast where he had other filmmakers, and then they would do commentary tracks on their films. And with Arkasha Stevenson's at this moment in time, only having the First Omen, that's the film they did, and it's a great film. But she had mentioned that in the first time they do it, she was inspired by a painting called The Portrait of Ophelia.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very famous painting. It's a very famous painting. No, it's a very famous painting that is referenced, I think, a lot in cinema.
Yes.
I know Wes Craven has referenced it multiple times. But when she mentioned that, I was like, I know that painting.
Yeah. Yeah, I just pulled it up so that I can have it fresh in my memory because I didn't know that, but now that I'm looking at it, yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's not something I would have picked up on.
No.
I didn't even pick up the shot was done twice.
Yeah, well, you usually do, so let me have this one.
But I've seen this movie more, too. That's the thing. I've seen it more.
So I really enjoyed that choice because, like, obviously, like, she mentions that it is very explicitly to represent the spider motif. But that being said, it also really foreshadows very well what is going to happen to Margaret. And in some ways, what has already happened. And with that being said, I'm going to throw out some trigger warnings for, like, rape and non-consensual acts as well as childbirth, if that is something that squicks you out. This is probably not the movie for you, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I threw you right in. I didn't give you any warning.
Did you know that one of my greatest fears is pregnancy?
I know that now.
Like, genuinely, sometimes.
We're going to talk about it, too. Like,
yeah. One of my dear friends was just recently had a baby, and I love her baby. He's the cutest little thing. He's wonderful. One time she told me that sometimes you could see his foot from the outside of her stomach when you kick, and I thought of that scene from Alien, and it made me want to die.
Ooh.
So being pregnant and pregnancy in general, and every time any of my friends with kids talk about like childbirth or any of that, freaks me the fuck out. So this movie was a trip.
Yeah, because this is the whole movie.
That's the whole movie. The whole movie is being pregnant.
Yeah. And it's, I don't want to jump around too much, but I really want to talk, since we're on the topic of pregnancy, I want to talk about the First Omen and its context in 2024. 2024 had a lot of movies that dealt with pregnancy.
Yes.
Especially American movies.
Yeah. I wonder why, Austin. Could you say more about that?
Well, here's the thing. A little important right was taken away from every American woman when they struck down Roe v. Wade. Yeah. So
it's a fear that's prevalent on a lot of women's minds, and it became very evident this year, especially in horror.
Not just in horror, a bunch of different, I mean, yes, horror, but like off the top of my head, so many films from 2024 dealt with pregnancy or and yeah, a lot of these are going to be horror movies. They dealt with either pregnancy or they had a fucked up birth scene.
Yeah.
Or they're dealing with the loss of bodily autonomy, specifically female autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking of The First Omen.
Yeah.
Immaculate
Mm-hmm.
is a very clear one. Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a spoiler. That kind of comes with the alien territory.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
Mm-hmm. This might be a spoiler, but Beetlejuice had a scene, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
The substance.
I was going to say, even to some extent, this isn't pregnancy, but the substance in terms of that bodily autonomy. Yeah.
A Nosferatu, I would argue, deals with the loss of bodily autonomy. Smile 2, I think.
Yeah.
Which, not necessarily pregnancy, but the loss of autonomy, especially for a female, I think that's very prevalent in Smile 2. And those are just some movies that I didn't even pull up my Letterboxd.
Yeah. So this is what I mean by like feminist body horror, if you're not familiar with the term. It is body horror specifically is pretty self-explanatory. It's horror to do with the body. It is changing bodies, it is morphing bodies, it is anything to do with like the change in a body. And feminist body horror specifically centers women and usually women's issues.
Yeah.
So for example, this idea of childbirth and forced childbirth. I feel like it's not a secret that not just in terms of the childbirth aspect, but also systems of power often allow men to get away with we can talk specifically, this happens in the Catholic Church. It's not always the Catholic Church. There's a lot of systems of power that let people get away with this, but let men get away with things like rape and sexual assault.
Right.
And that's kind of this early, at least, part of the movie is that these women come in, they have the jackal mate with them against their consent, and then they very quickly grow pregnant and give birth, like also against their will.
Right.
And I think it adds to the complexity of The Omen, and I personally think that The Omen was already rather complex.
Especially when that came out in the 70s.
Yeah. The fact that this movie has been kind of refreshed for these new audiences, and specifically I think with this being a woman director and with seeing more women in horror movie roles that are not just scream queens or final girls, but more central to the plot than just running away from a killer.
Right.
Not that those movies don't have their place, I think they do, but I do find this to be a really refreshing movie in that way. It's really Margaret and Carlita to some extent as well. They are obviously essential to the plot, but realistically, this whole movie is run by women. It takes place in a nunnery. I mean, like, it takes place in the Abbey. And every single character in the Abbey, with the exception of obviously the priests, the cardinals, etc., are women.
They're almost a non-factor, too.
Who?
The men.
Yeah, the men are really, with the exception of, what's his name? Who we just talked about for 10 minutes.
Oh, Father Brennan.
Father Brennan. With the exception of him.
And Bill Nighy's pretty important, too, but, like, he's letting the nuns do the work.
Right, yeah. He really only shows
also,
up
Bill Nighy's in this movie.
That's, yeah.
I thought I said Bill Nye. I was like, what?
No.
The science guy?
Not the science guy.
The science guy would not be in this movie.
Yeah, not his role.
I'm talking about the Davy Jones guy.
Yeah, Bill Nighy. But yeah, I do think that's really interesting to see how much of this is run by women and how much of this is the story unravels having to do with women.
Right. And while Father Brennan and then Father Gabriel, they do help Margaret really does this by herself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think what's interesting about the First Omen in the context of the Omen franchise is it's a very masculine franchise.
Yeah.
Like the original, you follow one of the most like men ever.
Yeah.
Gregory Peck.
Gregory Peck.
That's a man.
Side note, when they obviously I know this is a prequel. I've known it was a prequel the whole time.
Yeah.
But in the last scene, when they show his picture, I was literally like, Gregory Peck? It's
Okay,
crazy.
I forget. I was thinking of this earlier in the recording, and I forget why. But you said something. I'm like, well, I don't want to say my thing just now, but it was about the Gregory Peck, like, but I don't cameo. Right? It's literally just his picture,
It's just a picture.
and I'm still like, hell yeah, I love it. But I forget why I thought of it earlier, and when I'm editing this, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, but we can't have nice things.
Oh, Gregory Peck.
But and then the sequels, the main character is Damien.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like Omen 2, Omen 3.
Yeah.
And then the remake is just a remake, so it's still following. Lee Schreiber is now playing the Gregory Peck role. Damien's still a factor. I love the original movie, but Lee Remick doesn't get to do as much.
Well, and realistically, even in this movie, I like the commentary they make about the male child. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, obviously, we understand that, in the Bible, in the prophecy, the Antichrist is a male. We understand why they have to conceive a male child.
Mm-hmm.
But the obsession with creating a male child is something that we see, to this day in families.
Right.
Even, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Facebook comments or heard people talk about, a family that, for example, my stepdad
Mm-hmm.
has 2 girls. He has me, his stepdaughter, and then he has his biological daughter, my younger sister. He still gets questioned. My sister just graduated college. They're done having kids.
Yeah.
And my stepdad will still get questioned about, well, didn't you want a boy so you could play hockey with your boy, or so you could do this and that with your boy? And he was like, no, I like my daughters. Thank you very much. And it's this obsession, this cultural obsession with men cannot bond with their daughters. Men cannot have daughters and be satisfied. They have to have a boy.
Right.
That I think this movie touches on, amongst other themes. But I do think that's really interesting to watch how these girls, I mean, a lot of them did not survive, but even the 2 who did are cast away. Carlotta is locked up and kept away from other children.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much obvious that they are not valued. They are only there as a means to an end.
Well, it's in the birth scene, they're twins, which is actually a pretty cool twist.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't expecting that twist.
No.
Because I've seen The Omen multiple times. When she gives birth, I'm like, it's Damien. You know.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've seen the original. So going in, I knew. But then it's there's 2 of them. I was like, now there are 2 of them. This is getting out of hand. But no, I didn't think that. I should have. What I thought was, I was not expecting that.
Something that I really love about the movie as well is that it really touches on the fact that Margaret never loses her kindness.
No.
Not for a second. Even at the end when it has made her hardened, she takes this little boy in her hands and she knows logically. She is if this boy survives, it's going to mean chaos.
Right.
And she can't do it.
But
because whether or not it's because he's an innocent child or it's because it's her son and she feels a maternal instinct, whatever it is, she can't do it. And I think that's beautiful.
And I'll circle us back to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to say real quickly, I love the filmmaking in this scene.
Yeah.
Because just from a editing and storytelling standpoint, it's twins. And they're like, oh, one's a girl.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and the other? And the doctor, I shit you not, goes, it's a boy! And then it's songs, eating moon. And it's everyone's they're crying.
Yeah.
They are legit crying, and the music's boom, boom, boom. The Jerry Goldsmith score finally appears. And I know we'll get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting antsy first time I saw the movie. But when that moment happens, I got chills. And not I know that reference chills. I was like, oh, fuck. Chills of dread. And then I was like, I knew that was the case. I've
Yeah.
seen The Omen multiple times, but it's such an effective moment.
It really, like, just brings you into this movie.
And to your point, it all begins with, it's a girl. Aww.
Yeah.
They toss the girl aside.
Mm-hmm.
They leave her in a fire.
Yeah, they were just gonna kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Along with fucking the other two.
Margaret. Mm-hmm. And the jackal, which they do kill the jackal.
Yeah. I just, like, where'd they get a jackal?
That's smart.
I don't think so.
That was
I
such
just
a
really don't believe that's true.
that was such a genuine. I don't think so.
I don't think that happened.
In the commentary I was listening to, Arkasha Stevenson made a really interesting statement saying they didn't want to present the jackal as a villain because to her the jackal is not the villain. It's also just used
Yeah.
by this power hungry section of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And you never see the jackal really, just like little
just kind
glimpses.
of little glimpses.
You see its dick.
Yeah.
You do see some jackal dick, but it's so quick you have to process. Like it's hard to process. And it's
Yeah.
like, did I just see some jackal dong?
You did.
You did. You did.
If you think you did, you probably did.
That is a good rule for many situations.
You know?
Unfortunately, in this situation, it is as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully, dear listener, you are not in that situation.
I really hope you're never in the situation where you see jackal dick. I don't think that's a good thing for any of us.
Can we talk about the scene?
We have to.
It'd be a sin to do if we didn't.
Go for it. You start us off.
So Margaret is playing with the children, and she hears screaming, and she goes to investigate. And because in the nunnery, there's a birthing section.
This is the first scene of the movie that Jeremy watched, by the way.
And she comes across a woman giving birth.
Yeah.
And she's in pain, but also she isn't.
Yeah, they give her some kind of gas. She giggles.
She's doing like the smile from Smile.
Yeah.
And Margaret can't pull her eyes away.
Neither can we. They don't let you.
And then she sees a little, well, what I'm assuming is to be a little child, but it ain't. Something's coming out of that woman.
You watch this happen. You watch something come out of this woman.
From the vajayjay.
Yeah, I think they got that part, man.
It ain't a boy.
It's not a boy.
It ain't a girl.
I mean, it must have been because they got rid of it, but
It's like a jackal.
yeah,
hand.
it's got a full jackal hand. It's so fucked up.
And it's like, and it comes out of the vajayjay towards the camp, like
The whole thing. And you watch the whole thing close up, close range. Not even from where Margaret's standing. Close range.
it's awesome.
It's not.
It's such an incredible scene. The fact that they had the cojones to do that and put it in a studio film.
Yeah, and you would have to have cojones because you know what no woman would ever do? I'm kidding. It was literally a woman who did this.
I was about to say.
Can't do this. Like this was the first time in the movie that I realized that Austin didn't know that I had a fear of pregnancy. Cuz he would have warned me.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I really feel bad.
It's fine.
I've also showed you Alien, which
That's
does
a
not
little
help.
different. You know what I mean? Like, cause it bursts out of the like
It's still a birth scene.
it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a cesarean section. It's not a
Fair.
natural birth, and that to me is so much more horrifying.
That's
They're
fair.
both terrifying, but in different ways. Cause that can come out of anybody's stomach. You know what I mean? Like you just have
Yeah.
to have a bad luck. That thing, that claw, that can only come out of a woman.
Mm-hmm. To your point, I don't think a man could come up with a scene like that.
I really don't. You're right. That's true.
Only a woman.
Only women know horror like that.
Right, exactly.
And they just do it. Like, women do that voluntarily. I mean, not with a jackal, but you know what I mean. like women are not, birthing jackals a lot. But I'm just
Right.
saying.
But yeah, it's
Kids.
such an incredible moment. And not like a woo doing backflips in the theater, Tobey Maguire's on screen type moment.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's such a
Did you see this in theaters?
Yes.
How was that reaction? Was it silent?
If it was similar to the Tobey Maguire reaction, that's not okay.
No, kids were doing backflip. Popcorn was going everywhere. Yeah. You thought Minecraft was bad?
Argyle too.
Here we go again.
So, yeah, but was it dead silent? Because I would have
Yeah,
been
you
dead
could
silent
feel,
with
but-
awe.
But it was like a silence you could feel. It was like, oh shit. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
We are watching something special.
Mm-hmm.
Scary,
But special.
but special.
Yeah.
Right. And I just like when his little hand comes out of the vajayjay, he's like, hello.
No.
It's like Porky Pig. When he's
It's
like,
not a
"Da-da-da-da,
him.
that's all, folks.
It's a her.
Da-da-da-da, that's all, folks. And then Margaret's like, okay, and she faints.
Yeah, I would too. To be fair, I would also be like, "That's enough for me." Got it. And then she has to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
she just like watched childbirth, and then like 3 days later, she's like, "I
Right.
guess I'm 9 months pregnant now."
And there's this wicked homage to Possession,
Oh yeah.
which that's a movie for the horror girlies.
Yeah.
And you know who's in it? Sam Neill.
You're so right. God damn, he's in everything.
I love Sam Neill.
Yeah, he's in everything. You would
Jurassic
have to.
Park.
Jurassic Park's a movie.
But you know what I gotta say about The First Omen? Which I haven't said in a very long time on this show. It's a movie that feels like a movie.
Yeah, it does. It truly does.
Like rewatching it last night, I felt like I was transported, you
Yeah.
know?
It was really good. I will not lie. Sometimes it's really hard for me to watch new movies like after work because like it's a lot to, absorb
Right.
new content, right? So I was a little bit like, okay, I have to watch this movie because we are recording on Thursday and I have to watch our next movie tomorrow night, right?
Yes.
Because we recorded both episodes in one day. But
This is how we do it.
but because if we don't, Austin has to edit a podcast in 2 days.
Oh,
But so I was like really like, okay, I have to force myself to watch it. Like it's fine. Not like that I thought it was going to be a bad movie. I really had no preconceptions either way.
mhm.
But I like sat down and within like 15 minutes I was like, "Oh shit." Like I was in it. It
Yeah.
was very good. Had a good time. 10 out of 10.
Ooh, I like that.
Mhm.
So, is there other stuff you want to make sure we go over before we jump into our superlatives?
I don't think so. We really hit this is a 2024 movie, so there hasn't been a ton of cultural impact as of yet, but we kind of talked about the
Right.
cultural impact that it does hit. It hits that body horror trend that is happening right now.
The pregnancy trend.
Pregnancy trend.
We could talk about how it kind of hit the little church trend
Yeah.
of 2024 with this, I'm going to reference it again, Immaculate, which Immaculate's a good movie.
Is Immaculate the one? No.
That's the one
What's-
with Sydney Sweeney.
Okay, yes, Immaculate is that one. What is the one with, oh my god, the creepy old man? Is that also Immaculate?
I don't remember a creepy old man in Immaculate, but it might be.
He's not a creepy old man. He used to be like a rom-com guy. What's his name? He's kind of Hugh Grant?
Heretic.
Heretic. Thank
Okay.
you. I was like, that's not the same one. I knew it wasn't, but I couldn't think of the name.
Yeah, because it's Sophie Thatcher.
Yes.
And
okay.
we mentioned Chloe East
Mm-hmm.
in the Wolf of Snow Hollow episode.
Yeah.
Her, Hugh Grant, and Sophie Thatcher, but they're Mormons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that goes under the religious trend.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say Conclave.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge.
Yeah, I guess these are all church but yeah, Heretic's a big one. Heretic's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite go into like the pregnancy aspects, but I would say there's like loss of female autonomy
Yes.
in that film. So I would put it in the same home, right, as First Omen and Immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
First Omen and Immaculate are gonna be the double bill though because they're both nun movies.
Yeah.
They are much more similar to each other. I like Immaculate. I think Immaculate's really good, but it's kind of like the American Werewolf in London / The Howling.
Yeah.
I like them both, but I have a clear favorite.
Mm-hmm.
For me, in this duo, it's the First Omen.
Fair.
So, are we ready for superlatives?
Yes.
Who would you save?
All the babies.
Oh.
I know they didn't I think it's kind of not implied that they I don't know whether it's implied that they killed them or they just didn't survive because they were not feasible.
Right.
Either way, I would save all the babies. It's not their fault. Who would you save?
So we didn't talk about her at all,
Okay.
really. But I would save Luz.
Fair. Why?
Because I know she's a bad guy.
I was gonna say.
And I think the film's implying she becomes Mrs. Baylock.
I think it is, yeah.
That's my takeaway from and
I
she
also
aged
thought that.
horribly in those 5 years.
Yeah,
If
really.
But that being said, that would be really fucking cool if it was. That was the implication I was getting. I would save her not in the sense that I would save her from being bad.
Mm-hmm.
I could fix her.
Okay.
That was a really long pause for that.
I don't know that I agree, but okay. What is your favorite scare?
There's actually a lot of good scares.
Yeah.
There's she's praying really early in the beginning, and then the nun's like, hello! And then that gets me so good every time.
Mm-hmm.
There's the random spider when she wakes up, and the spider's like, hello!
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hello scares.
Yeah, there are.
And in case you guys don't know what I'm referencing, it's a type of scare, which this is not the academic term.
No, I don't think so.
It's a nickname I've given to this type of scare that I've given to it in this. It's not like a jump scare, but it's similar to a jump scare. But it's one where I guess it is just a jump scare, but I just think the monster in question is waving and saying hi.
Okay.
And that's just the rating I get. It's when
Yeah.
the nun scare, she turns around, it's like, hi, and it's so scary. But to me, she's saying hi.
Yeah.
And her arm is vaguely in a hello motion.
Sure.
And the spider, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a quick flash of it, and he has his little hand. And I'm arachnophobic, but I think he's saying hi.
Anytime they're super close up, I'm like, that's a little cutie. Anytime they're in real life, I'm like, get away from me, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
That is so real. But anyways, my favorite scare is when, I guess less my favorite scare, more my favorite kill.
Okay.
When Paolo,
Yeah.
he gets fucking wrecked by that truck.
Oh, God.
And then Margaret's like, he's like, I can't move. I'm so scared. I can't move. I'm scared. And she's like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. And she attempts to move him.
Why the fuck would she think that was going to work?
Well, dear listener, it didn't work.
I just, this
Our-
is my thing.
Our boy got bisected.
Well, if her intention was to move him, it half worked.
I just, I'm so confused on what she thought she was doing by lifting him up. He was crushed by the truck. Did she think she was going to lift up his whole body? And did she not feel like it was suspiciously light when she started to walk away? Because she lifted him up. She started to walk away. Then when everybody else screamed, that's when she noticed what she had done. And I was like, were you not wow, this man's 60 pounds.
It was kind of gnarly.
It was gnarly as fuck, yeah.
I liked that moment. That would be my favorite.
Was it goopy?
You know what? In a classy way, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty classically goopy.
And that's important. We got to talk about this real quick. The Omen's a classy horror movie.
Yeah.
The First Omen, despite it having a literal bisection, jackal dick,
Several births,
jackal dick, it's a very classy movie.
She's a classy lady.
Yes. What is your favorite scare?
My favorite scare is when Margaret is in the room of shame.
Ooh.
And she's sitting there and she's praying, and then she just starts going, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. And then she hears, from off screen in her head, what's not real? And then she goes, who said that? Oh, that gets me every time. I don't know why. I watched it 3 separate times. I went back every time. Because when it goes, what's not real? Oh,
Ooh, yeah.
Chills down my
I
spine.
just got chills too.
Ugh.
And then the scare right after that, when the burnt sister comes to haunt her.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a hello scare.
No, that's not a hello scare.
That is, that moment's scary too. This is a scary movie.
It's a scary movie.
It's a scary movie that feels
Like
like
a
a
scary
scary
movie?
movie. Yeah.
What's your Tony Todd Award for movie MVP?
Shit. There's so many good options for this. There's so many different ways. I love every aspect of this movie. But with Tony Todd being one of the greatest character actors of our time with an amazing voice, I'm going to give my Tony Todd Award winner for this episode to Ralph Ineson, because he is also one of the great character actors of our time, and he has an amazing voice.
True, he does.
And we spent 10 minutes already about him. Mm-hmm. Who is your Tony Todd Award winner for movie MVP?
Nell Tiger Free.
That is the correct answer.
Like, she did such a wonderful job as Margaret, playing this like slightly disturbed, very, very kind, and like ultimately very optimistic in the beginning, despite what we later learned she's been through.
The moment where she finds out what she is and she's freaking out, and Ralph Ineson's father Brennan is trying to calm her down.
That switch.
She's like, "Touch me again, I'll kill you."
Yeah. Like
that bass came out of nowhere. It was.
She's fucking phenomenal.
The range.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just gotta say this real quick. I was so close to giving the award to Arkasha Stevenson for bringing everything together.
Yeah.
But I just did that in the Crimson Peak episode with Guillermo del Toro. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do that again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I do want to highlight Arkasha Stevenson once again. What a picture. Mm-hmm. What a director. I can't wait to see what she does next.
Me too.
The Second Omen.
This about a different Omen.
Do you want to ask me something?
Is the score better than Jaws?
No. But I got to say something.
Okay.
I have to speak my truth.
Okay.
Because we don't have plans to talk about a certain movie at this moment. Do I think this score is better than Jaws? No. But I think it contains themes and elements from a different score that I think is better than Jaws.
I don't know what you're talking about. Would you like to elaborate?
Do I just have to say it?
I guess not. We can just stop there, but I would like to know.
I'll say it. In case we ever cover The Omen from 1976, you guys know what I'm going to say in that episode. I think The Omen has a better score than Jaws.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. I don't, but like that's fine.
Really?
Yeah, which is crazy.
The John Williams hater coming to his defense.
I know. Anyway, I
thought you were going to be so happy.
I'm thrilled that you find a score better than Jaws. I didn't think it was possible, but that being said, this score was done by Mark Corvin, who did The Witch and The Lighthouse, but obviously borrowed themes from Jerry Goldsmith, who did the original The Omen.
It's really just the one in the one moment. But
that's true.
So I do want to give a lot of credit to Mark Corvin.
Yes.
Because this score is actually, I think this score works very well on its own. I've listened to it a couple times, especially when I was making The Blood Witch last year.
Right.
It was a score that I would go back to when I was like writing and when I was, thinking.
Nice.
But its best moment is when it finally uses a Jerry Goldsmith score.
Fair.
Before you go into the legend of Jerry Goldsmith, can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
I was a little critical on the score at first. Mm-hmm. Because I was dumb and just wanted a Jerry Goldsmith retread. Fair. Which, in my defense, why wouldn't you?
For sure.
So I think in one of my original my first Letterboxd review, I was like, well, the score's not as good as Jerry Goldsmith, but it'll do, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I revisit the film, I revisit the score, I'm like, hey, I was being a fucking pretentious snob.
Yeah, it's a really good score.
It's so good. And there are low string moments that are really, they feel like they're part of the Omen world, but it's not Goldsmith. Mm-hmm. And they're really great moments. And I think over time, it starts off with like church music and a lot of choir shit, but over time it introduces those low strings. It starts to bring rhythm to the choir, because I think for a lot of the film, the choir is just kind of doing their own, not their own thing, but it's when it don't have rhythm. What's the word I'm looking for?
Acapella?
Not acapella, but I'm trying to think of atonal, but for rhythm.
I don't know, because arrhythmic is not the right word.
But you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
There's a like
without percussive sounds.
Without percussive sounds, and a lot of the like vocal melodies that are happening are not free flowing, but they're like rubato. I don't know. Whereas in The Omen, they're like chants. They're very rhythmic.
Yeah.
But then he starts putting in those like nasty low strings, and then the choir starts to come a bit more in line. They're less atonal. And then when Damien's finally born and they have the realization it's a boy, that's when Ave Satani comes in.
Yeah.
And it all comes together.
Right.
So when I first saw the movie, I think I just wanted more Ave Satani.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things. Like, I kind of feel that way about, this is going to sound funny, but the Star Wars prequels. Because, like, the whole, like, movie, the whole original trilogy, you're like, anytime Darth Vader's on the screen, you hear
the Imperial March.
The Imperial March.
Yeah.
And so, like, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the Star Wars prequels or the Star Wars movies in general, don't listen to this part. But, like, when Anakin, like, finally goes, I killed them, and not just the men, but the women and the children too. And then you hear very slowly in the background, dum 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 dum. It's like you're like, yeah, like
yeah.
So like I totally get that. I mean, I can't believe how much John Williams praise I'm giving today. This is
I
crazy.
know.
What the fuck is happening?
It's called growth.
It's not.
You're maturing as a person.
Not. And next week we might talk about it more. Anyway. So Jerry Goldsmith, though,
yes.
I do want a quick shout out because, like you said, we don't have a time where we're going to talk about The Omen, but like he's done so many movies.
I mean, we will talk about The Omen at some point. It's one of my favorite movies.
Talk about other movies on this list, and we have talked about other movies on this list,
but this is our first Jerry Goldsmith,
right? So he's
score
done 5 Star Trek movies, 5.
The original.
Yes.
Well, the original movie, I mean.
Yes.
Bum, ba, ba, bum, ba, ba, bum.
Yeah.
Ba, ba, ba. That one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I wish I had the other ones off the top of my head, but I can't find them in time. Mm-hmm. He's also done parts of the Rambo franchise.
I did not know that.
Yep. Planet of the Apes.
Can't sing anything from that, but it is a banger. It's very rhythmic. Yeah.
Yeah. The Omen.
Sanguis irimus.
Alien. Poltergeist?
I can't sing a melody,
okay.
But I love the Poltergeist score. It goes crazy.
Gremlins.
That is the most singable one.
Yeah. Basic Instinct.
I can't sing anything from that.
Probably actually the most singable one. Mulan.
I don't want to butcher Reflection.
That's fair. I fucking love Mulan. Mulan is my favorite Disney movie.
Is it?
Shouts out Jerry Goldsmith. Yes.
I understand why you don't. I was really ready for it.
I really just want to hear Austin. Who is that girl I see? We could go on the road with this.
Staring straight back at me.
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
And then he did The Mummy. Beautiful.
It's a great score, but my brain almost went da 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 da, and I'm like,
nope,
no, that is wrong on so many levels.
Wrong composer, wrong episode,
wrong aesthetic. Literally water to desert.
Yeah. And then he also did. I didn't know this one, but he also did the current fanfare for the Universal Pictures logo.
Bum 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 ba da bum bum boom boom.
Yeah,
that one.
The one which debuted in the Lost World Jurassic Park. Different. Yeah. Remember when we were going to try to do that?
Did he compose the Ralph Wiggum version of it?
Yes.
You can do that one.
I'm good.
Do you own this film? Would you buy this film? Do you own The Omen?
So I have a Omen collection. Blu-ray came out a couple years ago with the original The Omen 2, The Omen 3, The Final Conflict, and the Omen 2006 remake.
Gotcha. But not the made-for-TV Omen.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. And I do own the first Omen on Blu-ray.
Okay.
I would like to own it on 4K, but it didn't really come out yet. They might.
Right.
I'm sure they'll make one.
I'm sure.
But it just came out on Blu-ray, and I'm like, I'll just spend the $25 it was, because just in case they don't, I have it.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a fine addition to the first one in a month that I've owned.
Nice. Glad you're back.
Would this make a fine addition to your collection?
Yes, but I would have to buy The Omen first. I would want to own the OG before I owned any prequels
That's
or
fair.
sequels or anything.
That's fair. Is your Letterboxd review ready?
My Letterboxd review is ready. I reviewed, first of all, I caught up on all the movies that I forgot to upload to Letterboxd, so go check out my Letterboxd.
Hell yeah.
But also, I rated this one the day that I actually watched it. Proud of me. I rated it 4 stars, and I said, my fear of pregnancy, reaffirmed.
Oh. So mine's ready too.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it 4.5 stars.
Wow.
And a heart.
And a heart.
And I said, I love this film so much. Perfect usage of Ave Satani. The more I watch this film, the more I love it.
Cute.
I really, really love this film. And I saw you liked a older review of this one the other day.
Well, it was because you hadn't reviewed it before I watched it, so I went to go look up your review.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give your review for this one? I will do it if
I
you
thought
won't.
it was so funny. And so I did it.
Well, okay,
And then it
first
got-
of all, I think it's really important
It
that
got 2
this
likes.
review, do you know when this review was posted?
Oh, I do.
Okay, that's important to the context. So give the date and then give the review.
It was, so I watched this on November 6th, 2024.
Yep.
And I put, so that's how Donald Trump was born. And then I put 3 shocked face emojis.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's funny.
It is funny. I agree.
And you know what? The Antichrist allegations aren't not applicable.
No. They're not applicable.
But more importantly, are there any Supernatural alumni?
There are not. I really was hoping for this one, but no Supernatural alumni for this one.
You know
There
what?
are no alumni, but there is a connection-ish.
Oh?
So it's more of a connection when we do an episode for like The Omen, but I'm still gonna bring it up here.
Sure.
In an episode of Supernatural, Dean Winchester talks about his love for the band Led Zeppelin because they're talking about the song Stairway to Heaven. But then he corrects his brother Sam and says, no, my favorite Led Zeppelin song is Ramble On because I saw it in the movie The Omen.
Oh.
That song's in that movie?
That song is in that
it is
movie.
in that movie.
I didn't remember that.
Wait,
Yep.
how the fuck did you remember this random conversation Sam and Dean had? And first of all, why didn't I remember this random conversation that Sam and Dean had?
I can only answer part 1 of your question.
Okay.
Just because I was thinking about connections to the show Supernatural, and I do only remember the one moment that this movie was brought up in that show.
That's crazy.
That's iconic.
It's insane to me that you knew something about Supernatural I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a improv superlative for you guys.
Before we go into it, can I just say an alumni
Absolutely.
thing real quick?
Yeah.
Please.
Because I don't want to lose it. There are multiple Game of Thrones alumni.
True. Even Nell Tigerfree is one, right?
Nell Tiger Free is one.
Yeah.
She plays Marcella Baratheon.
Mm-hmm.
And then this I don't know how we went almost an hour and a half and didn't bring up Charles fucking Dance
Yeah.
is in this. He's in the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Starts the movie off with a bang. Fucking Lord Tywin Lannister.
Yeah. True.
Like, who I guess is Marcella's granddad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never made that connection before. He literally is.
Yeah.
He's the mother of her mother.
I've only
He's
the mother of her mother.
The father of her mother.
I've only seen like 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, and Jeremy's never seen a single episode. So.
But you've seen Charles Dance.
Yeah, I've seen Charles Dance. I've never seen Nell Tiger for you. I just found out she was in it when I looked her up earlier today.
Oh, I was about to say just now when I said it.
No.
But there are Game of Thrones alumni.
Yeah.
I'd say Game of Thrones is up there with Supernatural and iconic TV shows.
Oh, probably more so, I would say.
Okay, so I have a
Yes.
question for you guys.
Yes.
Because this is something I think about with prequel movies all the time, regardless of genre.
Mhm.
Was this a story that needed to be told?
I say yes, especially in the context of now.
Yes, I completely agree. I think it recontextualized Damien in a really interesting way that makes the Omen seem more relevant now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In ways that it would seem dated before. But I really like that superlative, and I think we should keep it for the whole month.
I should have thought of this earlier because we need something to make it a prequel-y thing.
Yes.
But yes, I do think this should have been made.
Cool. Good work.
We did it. Wait a second. No, we didn't.
Hey, Austin.
Okay, you go for.
No, would you die?
So here's the thing.
I wonder what he's gonna say.
I'm not a baby.
Oh, there's that.
This isn't the Omen 3. What? So here's the thing. It's hard to say because if in this particular movie, the only people that die, it's funny because the women are targeted in this film, but the only people that die are the ones who are involved with the plot, or they're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay.
And I'm only thinking of one person that applies to, and that's the driver of their car when it gets hit.
Yeah.
I have no clue if Father Gabriel survives, but the dude that gets bisected is part of the plot. Sister who it's all for you is part of the plot. I guess Bill Nighy dies. Maybe he's part of the plot.
What's his face with the car?
The jackal. Wait.
No.
No. What's his face with? Yeah, the guy driving it.
No, the one who gets bisected, he dies.
Oh, that's what I said.
He
Oh,
said that.
I'm sorry. I was confused by what you were saying.
Oh, I'm sorry, but he's part of the plot.
Yeah.
The jackal's part of the plot. The jackal is the plot.
The jackal dick is part of the plot.
Yeah, it is.
Ew, no.
Ew. Why'd you do that?
You did it.
Well, no, you knew I would have to.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I'm kidding. But all this to say, yes, because I would like to think I wouldn't be part of this plot.
Right. If in the event you found yourself in the situation, it seems inevitable.
That's
that
you know
you
what
would
I'm
die.
saying?
Yeah.
Because I ain't it's the Omen. I don't know what I did to piss off the devil, but
Fair.
How about you? Would you die?
I said yes because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I would do well. First of all, I don't think I would do well becoming a nun anyway. But mostly because I'm not Catholic. That's generally a prerequisite.
Things would be
And,
tough on you.
I'm a Protestant, which I feel like in traditional Catholicism is worse than an atheist, So, because that's what I keep thinking about, right? So they're doing this Antichrist thing to bring everybody back to the church, right?
Yeah.
But in their mind, the church is Catholicism. What happens if all these people become fucking Protestant? What happens if you've got a bunch of Lutherans running around? Where's your power then?
Then Damien's gonna have to fuck a jackal.
That's all I'm saying.
So we did it.
We did it.
That was the first Omen.
That was the first Omen. That was the beginning of Georgians.
Hell yeah, Georgians again.
What
happened? What happened to Origin?
I was bringing the joke back around, but since you're a killjoy, never mind.
The double down is crazy.
I don't need
The
this from you
devil
people.
down.
I'm over this. Get me out of here.
Do you want to do the the ending again, because you did a good job last week.
Yes. Austin, if the people want to find you on social medias, where can they find you?
You can find me all over the internet landscapes at Austin M. Torres, but really just Instagram and Letterboxd. That's where I'm most at. I'm trying to do better on Blue Sky,
Good call.
but I'm getting there. How about you?
You can find me at Whimsawillow. Also, mostly Letterboxd and Instagram. I'm trying to do the threads. We'll see how that goes.
I guess I do threads, but honestly, whenever I post to Instagram, it posts on threads for me.
That's true.
So I don't really look at threads.
Right. You can also find our show at Would You Die Show everywhere on the social medias, on YouTube. Patreon is active this month.
Let's go.
Be on the lookout for that. Super small subscription fee. So, like, if you're interested to hear more of what we have to say about perhaps some non-horror things, that might be a place to look.
Maybe a prequel that's out of this world.
True. Our production is done by Jeremy Lippitt. The music that you hear at the beginning and end of the episode is done by Josie Palmer. Our graphics that you'll see on our social media is done by Alec Gibson of Crosshook Creative. I'm Anneliese Petersmark.
I'm Austin Torres. Do you want me to give the hint for next week's
I want you to
episode?
give the hint for next week's episode.
Those aren't birds, honey. Those are giant vampire bats.
And with that, try not to die.